Hello everybody and welcome back on BallinCraig Estate. It's been a little while since we were here. If you've been following the series, apologies for the delay in getting new episodes out. It was a mixture of real life and some technical issues with the last recording, but we're back and we're just breaking daylight on a new day here on BallinCraig Estate. So, last episode, the young man was heading out for a meal with Helen while Trevor was left to his own devices on the farm. The young man and Helen had a very nice evening out at a local pub nearby. They shared a lot of interest. The young man found out that, much like himself, Helen had moved away from the area and into the city, where she had studied art. And after a good night and perhaps a little bit too much wine, he actually found out that she'd made quite a bit of money as an artist and was now looking around for a place to buy where she could combine her passion of keeping rare breed sheep along with doing her artwork. So she would like to find somewhere with a picturesque surrounding. At that point, obviously, the young man jumped up and volunteered BallinCraig Estate, but he kept his cool and it was okay. By the time the young man came home that night, Trevor had been trying to stack bales. Now, as we can see over here, it's not the most masterful stacking in the whole universe, but considering they're only just getting to grips with handling round bales, and considering that this is where they would normally have stacked smaller bales by hand, there's a decent amount in here, and actually further in, the stacking got a little bit better. This is traditionally the area where they would keep a lot of the hay that was being produced, even when it was small bales. Since this particular stable doesn't get used right away until it gets really cold. So today is another day after the young man went out. Previous day he was helping out Trevor with the bales here. Trevor had done some of it in the evening and they got the rest finished. Helen did come up to visit to ensure that the sheep over here were settling in as well, and they are doing very fine indeed. They're feeding well, they're settling in here on the rich grass on BallinCraig Estate. And this morning, the young man's job is finally to get down and cut the 2 fields behind the church, because the village fair is coming on soon, and they need the grass fields with nice short grass so they can put up tents and entertainments and so forth. So after tending to the feeding of the animals, the young man is gonna head straight down. He got the mower moved down yesterday while he was working on the farm, and it was a bit fiddly. It's a very narrow it's a very narrow road that leads down to the fields, and but he got there in the end, and so he's ready to start cutting as soon as there's a little bit more daylight. Greatly refreshed with a bit of extra coffee and a little bit clearer daylight, the young man climbs into his truck. He's in a good mood. Things have been shaping up. That round baler that Helen somehow managed to borrow from the local machinery shop completely free of charge has made an immense difference to how they can handle the hay and the amount of work that's needed to get the work done. So and on top of that, he's now got 2 extra fields here worth of grass. The grain here, actually, as he stopped just to inspect it a little, is starting to look really good. It's not quite ready yet. In fact, it might just need a little bit of fungicide sprayed on it, but overall it's looking pretty ready. It's a job the young man really has not done on the farm at all before. There is an old combine harvester parked up at the farm, but he has never really used the combine, and they've never had it running while he's been here, so but they'll cross that bridge when they get to it. The key thing really on this farm is to get the hay sorted, so he's a little bit unsure here because the mowers in here can't block the road. There's occasionally traffic coming down, so he decides he's gonna pull into the second grass field over here. This is the other grass field that also needs to be cut, because the village fair is actually quite a big deal around here. So this field is for car parking. There's going to be a lot of visitors coming, and then this whole field here, which is actually quite large, leading right up to the back of the church and the houses here, is where all the fair and the tents is. There's a bit of a slope on it, but apparently the villagers are used to dealing with that and have a very clear plan for what to do. So quick swipe through the grass. There's a little bit of dampness, but nothing that the sun won't take care of. So it's early in the morning, but the young man quite happily sets to his work, whistling himself a little tune. Just hopes that he's not gonna wake up too many of the villagers as he starts cutting the grass around here. He realizes that he's obviously going to have to do a bit of a tidier job than he normally would have, because well, the villagers are going to need the whole field, and so he actually needs to get the trailer shifted, and he reckons he can maybe manage to hook it onto to the truck here. With the trailer out of the way, the young man can carry on. He realizes he better close the gate as well, so he can cut right up to the edge here as well. I think it's fair to say that the young man is starting to feel that somehow it's important that he does a good job and leaves a good impression on the vicar. Now previously that might have been okay from a perspective just of fitting in to the village, but after he's met Helen, there seems to be an additional motivation. The vicar is her dad, and he seems to be now extra keen on making a good impression. The young man is tidying up closer to the houses. He suddenly sees Helen standing in the field waving at him, and he jumps out to say good morning. She laughs and points down. "You missed a bit." The young man feels a bit flustered. I'll get that bit in a second." "Oh, don't worry," she says. "I'm just kidding. Do you need a hand?" "Well," he says, if you're happy to run the tether again, might need to wait an hour or two, but apart from that..." "Excellent," says Helen. I'll head up to the farm in about an hour and pick up the tether and get it all turned, and by then you should be ready to start baling then." And the young man nods. "That sounds perfect," he says. "I better get back to the job." "Oh yeah, just one more thing," says Helen. "For lunch, I'd like you to come to my dad's house. He'd quite like to meet you. The young man suddenly looks a bit flustered. Lunch? But there's quite a lot to do. Helen laughs. Oh, stop being so silly about it. It's just lunch. Anyway, we better get cracking on work. The young man nods and says, yeah, I better get back to it. The young man almost throws himself into the mower to get on with things. Suddenly, having to meet the vicar for lunch, he seems a bit nervous. He's not going to have time to go home and take a shower and put on nice clothes, but he guess it's a sort of working lunch, and Helen seems very informal about these kind of things, so he reckons it's okay, but it does seem like the young man is the natural worrier out of the two. As Helen is getting the tedder ready up on the farm, the young man is starting to try and snake the lethal combination of a mower and a header on a trailer out through the narrow gates and trying to avoid destroying the bushes around the place as well. And as Helen comes up to the field, she just sees the young man in the process of reversing in the mower. She pulls into the field to start the tedding, but just pops over to see if everything is okay. She waves at the young man, who looks a little frazzled from all the tight navigation, but all the hedges are still looking in one piece, and both of them are good to get moving on their next jobs. The fresh smell of dry grass getting turned and hay smell is brilliant on a nice summer's day like this. She's starting to really look forward to the village fair. She's missed it for quite a few years while she was in the city doing her work as an artist. So she's looking forward to having a bash at the old coconut shy and various other activities that she remembers fondly from her childhood. And as Helen is wrapping up tedding the field, it's coming up to about 12:30, so it's pretty much lunchtime, and she knows the young man is getting pretty close to being finished with cutting the grass over in the other field. So she closes the gate to finish off the last little bit here. Get that rusty old gate swinging again, and quickly hops back on the tractor just to finish off the last little strip right in front of the gate there. And then she drives back across the field because her dad's house is literally right on the other side of the hedge here, and she decides to let him know and help him out to get lunch ready, so that when the young man is finished, everything will be all set. And as the young man finishes the last couple of swaths, he's done with the cutting of grass for today, but there's still plenty of work left to do. This glorious sunshine, the grass is going to be drying really quick over in the other field, and he's hopeful that if Helen has finished now, that they might actually be able to pretty much get on with baling that right away. Notice this, that the gate is closed, and even right here up at the edge, everything has already been tethered, and that the tractor is parked way over by the other house. Helen pushes out through the bushes just as the young man has entered the field and waves over to him. "Come over and get lunch!" The young man hears her and doesn't waste much time. To be honest, he's actually really quite hungry by now, so he gladly accepts the offer, even though he is perhaps a little bit nervous about, formally meeting the dad, the vicar in town, and he kind of looks down his own clothes and says, I'm quite dirty and dusty right now. Helen laughs. "Oh yes, if I'm not. Come on, this is just a quick lunch in the kitchen, nothing fancy. Follow me, just squeeze through the hedge here." And so while the young man and lady are enjoying their lunch, we are gonna call it time for this particular episode. But we'll be back shortly to see how they get on with the rest of the field work and getting ready for the summer fair. But that is it for this episode. Thank you very much from Overcourt Gaming, and if you do like, please do hit that like and subscribe button. See you again soon.